What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Now today I've got one incredible story of revenge for you, centering around multiple Karens that all refuse to get the COVID vaccine. Now, if you are a regular viewer of my channel, you'll know that I recently had COVID myself, and fortunately today I had my first vaccine finally, so I thought I had to bring you guys this story in particular. My mother ruins an anti-vaxxer Karen and her cronies. The subject of this story is my mother. Now, for the sake of this story, I'll call her Amber. She's in her late 70s and works for a women's clothing store, which caters specifically to older clientele. She's been working for this particular company for some 20 years now. The manager of the store is the absolute epitome of a Karen, so let's call her Karen. Extremely entitled, short-haired, chubby, cheats on her husband, and a blatant backstabber. Because the store is staffed by mostly older women, cliques tend to form. It's basically high school. Yes, older women can be that petty, and naturally, Karen has her own cronies. During periods where no one is in the store, there also tends to be a ton of gossip. Now, this is important for later. The assistant manager, let's call her Jackie, is also one of Karen's lackeys, and she has her head way up Karen's butt. If Karen does something, then Jackie isn't far behind, etc. Now, my mum Amber is a bit of a ballbuster, and she has zero tolerance for garbage in her personal life. Over the years, she has tried to stay impartial when it comes to her work, however, because to her, it's all about professionalism. It also helps that she's been the top seller for her district for some 10 years running, despite working part-time. Karen and Jackie absolutely hate her for it. So much so that Karen routinely schedules her for hours which are not especially good. Despite this though, Amber still has her loyal clientele, and she always comes out on top against the other sale associates in total sales every quarter. As expected, this naturally feeds the horrible feedback loop with Karen and Jackie. When COVID hit, the company decided to cut all commission for sales associates. The commission was one of the main reasons why Amber endured Karen and Jackie's BS. While she only made slightly above the state's minimum wage, with the commission she could double or even triple that amount on good days. According to her, no other retailer in the area offers this kind of system, and it's pretty unlikely that the company will reinstate it even after COVID ends. Along with the cut in wages, the store was also forced to decrease the amount of hours that they could offer to their associates. Karen took this as a way to essentially bar Amber from working at the store. While other associates were getting 8 to 10 hours a week, Amber would see maybe 6 if she was lucky, and they would be during times of low customer traffic. Now, Karen could get away with this because the district manager is also in her pockets. Along with the reduced hours and the removal of commissions, the store naturally had a mandatory mask policy for all employees and customers. Karen and her lackeys would often complain and moan about how unnecessary this was because, according to them, COVID is a hoax, and wearing masks makes you subservient to the government. Can confirm, from having COVID myself, it's not a hoax, guys. Crazy, I know. There were actually a few incidents where Karen would let people without masks into the store, despite the state and company mandates. Amber refused to rock the boat, however, so when this did happen, she'd go into the back of the store and stay as far away from these people as possible. During this period in time, a friend of the family and good friend of Amber's passed away due to complications from COVID. The funeral was set for a time when Amber was scheduled to work, so she called out that day. Karen and Jackie attacked Amber and the deceased, claiming that she must have caught the flu or been in bad health, and that Amber was feeding into the lie. Oh, how nice it must be to live such a privileged life. Not long after, a few of the store's loyal clients also passed away from COVID, and still, Karen and Jackie, along with their groupies, maintain their narrative in the most vindictive way possible. Every time someone died, it must have been because of bad life choices or bad health to them. Never was it attributed to the global pandemic that was claiming thousands of people a day, according to Karen and her groupies. And always when Amber decided to go to the services or support the deceased in any way, she'd hear snide remarks regarding how she was supporting a hoax. I guess sympathy is not really a thing for these people. Some of these customers were regulars who'd been coming to that particular store for years, and still none of the groupies would relent on these points. Recently, the COVID restrictions have started to lift, and many of the clientele and employees have gotten their vaccines. This includes submitting paperwork to show that you have indeed obtained a vaccine, or a note from a doctor explaining why you couldn't have one. Not Karen or Jackie though. To them, getting the vaccine would be like pumping poison into their veins. Instead, they decided to use fake COVID white cards with their information, effectively forging the documents. Amber, however, has suggested multiple times that they just get the vaccines because it's something that is mandated by the company. All employees must get vaccines when they are available, and given that almost all of the employees are above the age of 60, they've been eligible for the shots for months now. Recently, Amber had an emotional conversation directly with Karen, where she expressed her concern for her. "I just want you and your family to be safe, so please get the vaccine." Karen responded with her normal snide attitude, of course. A few days later, however, Karen sent a text message mentioning that she had finally got the vaccine. She didn't. Amber replied that that was great and that she was happy for her. Karen just replied with a gif of some guy throwing up the middle finger. This was the beginning of the end for Amber. Alright, that is the background done, guys. Now on to the juicy parts. During one of her shifts, Amber overheard Karen and Jackie discussing how Amber is a moron and a sheep who bought the story about how Karen had taken the vaccine. During that same shift, Amber was working with a customer in the back, and some women came into the store and stole a couple of items of clothing. They probably totaled out to be $100 at most. Now, it's company policy that during all shifts, there always has to be at least 2 employees in the store, and during this particular stretch of time, Jackie was the only other person in the store. According to the video cameras, Jackie was up in the front of the store playing with her phone when this woman came in. Normally, if someone steals items from the store, the protocol is to avoid confronting them and instead just call security after they've left the store. This is mainly to avoid lawsuits and to protect the employees should these people choose to get violence. It has happened in the past. That evening, Amber received a call from Karen telling her that she was on probation pending an investigation for allowing this woman to steal from the store. Given the company's policy regarding theft, this really made no sense. It was at this point that Amber truly decided she had had enough. Eventually, this probation led to Amber's dismissal, and the official reasoning was fairly vague. So then, finally, on to the revenge. One thing that I forgot to mention. A few years ago, Amber asked me to teach her how to record things on her phone, and luckily, we live in a single consent state. As such, Amber had recordings of these women backstabbing her and gossiping about rather scandalous things dating back for years. She'd gathered quite the collection because you never know when you need to cover your own butts. Over the years, Amber has gone to HR to no real avail, even with her recordings. Whether it be because they are also in the pocket of Karen or that they just don't care remains to be seen. The HR department works directly under the district manager. Amber is also very good at keeping any paperwork and proof of these visits, including some recordings. She also recorded the call where she was fired. Amber has a ton of very loyal clients who were pretty distraught when they learned of her dismissal. One client in particular runs a column at one of the major newspapers for the nearby city. We will call her Casey. Since Amber was a part-time worker, she didn't really have much of a leg to stand on legally when it came to claiming a wrongful dismissal claim by legal means. However, that didn't mean that she didn't have any kind of recourse. She decided to attack the problem from multiple fronts. Amber compiled some of the greatest hits from her recording collection and had me email them off to the corporate offices of the company, specifically the CEO, the CTO, and basically every member of the board of directors. I fired a couple bursts off to anyone who had any power that I could find. Along with those recordings, she wrote an email about how Karen, Jackie, and their group of sheep all refused to get vaccines and had falsified their vaccine documents to pass the company's standards. Casey then put Amber in touch with a columnist for the newspaper, and they got copies of the recordings, the text messages, and the dismissal phone call. They also did an interview, which was for an article and a TV slot on the local news. Amber discussed the commission cuts, clear favoritism, lack of any intervention by HR, forged documents, company policy, the incident, etc. Basically anything relevant to paint these women in a terrible light. Among some of these recordings were bits of gossip that included conversations regarding Karen's various boyfriends over the years. She was married. And Amber also wrote an anonymous email to the husband that included some of these recordings. Oh my god. So then, moving on to our final section of this story, the fallout. Poop hit the fan pretty fast, as you could probably imagine. Karen, Jackie, the district manager, and a couple of the groupies were immediately fired and put under investigation for forging those documents. While forging a vaccine card isn't really something too serious, it could lead to some pretty hefty fines. There's no specific law against forging the vaccine white cards. However, because the white cards contain the government seal, well, you can just imagine how illegal that might be. Let's just say the FBI has stepped in on this one. One of the recordings actually featured Karen admitting to using forged cards. After the article and TV slot ran on the local news, the CEO reached out to Amber to formally apologize for the behavior of HR, the district manager, Karen, and Jackie. She even went as far as to offer Amber a raise, but Amber declined because she found a job that actually paid a fair wage and let her work on her own time. The real problem for the CEO and the board was the fact that their employees were breaking the company policy for a store that exclusively catered to older women regarding a virus that tends to kill older people. They caught some heavy public backlash for this. Well, I'm not really that surprised. Karen's husband seems to have separated from her after finding out about her infidelity. Whether or not this will lead to a divorce remains to be seen. The best part for Amber is that many of her clients started coming to her new store, and again, she's kicking butt as one of the best sales associates. And there we go, absolute whirlwind. What a story, by the way. Like, this is you don't get this sort of level of story on other subreddits. r/ProRevenge, honestly, that's where it's at. If you see a video from me and it's got r/ProRevenge in the title, you know you're getting an amazing story. That is for sure. Honestly, lying about getting a vaccine, that is unbelievable. I mean, not getting one in the first place is strange. Guys, obviously you don't need me to tell you this, but if you haven't yet got a vaccine, if you're eligible and able to get one, please do go ahead and get one. You are literally saving lives. I got my first one today, as I said in the intro, but lying about getting one, I don't even know if that's worse. I think it actually is worse than just flat out refusing to get one in the first place and then openly admitting that you haven't got one, because lying about getting one and then, you know, working in that same company that thinks then that you have had one, potentially putting other people in danger when no one really realizes. For me, that's worse than saying, you know what, no, I just refuse to get one, because at least then the company knows and can deal with you in whichever way they want to deal with you. But doing that, oh, it's so sly, isn't it? Like, I really cannot emphasize enough how dangerous that is. I mean, you guys know this, but does it get much worse than that? I really don't think it does. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this episode of r/ProRevenge. I really hope you have enjoyed it. If you did and you want more from this subreddit from me right away, check out a couple more videos on screen right there. If you're new to the channel, subscribe and turn notifications on. That's important, so you get notified every time I post a brand new video. Yeah, hit the button and I'll see you all tomorrow with a brand new video. Have a good one.